Okay,
Okay.
Angela,
Yo.
it is a couple of days post the first 2024 presidential debate, a debate that was requested by the Biden and Biden administration, the Biden camp,
Campaign. Yeah.
the Biden campaign. What do you think was the best part about it?
Well, to be honest, I didn't watch it. I struggle from secondhand embarrassment. If anyone knows what that is, I get ill when I watch people doing things that are embarrassing, or when I feel embarrassed by what others are doing, I am impacted. I don't know if that means I'm an empath or whatever, but so all that to say, I tend to not watch shows, events, political things that are so cringe or have the potential to be so cringe that they make me feel unwell. That's kind of what I assume the debate would be. And I don't think that based on the coverage that I was wrong. I think that I was very right about that. So yeah, I didn't watch the debate. I have watched some clips. I have watched some footage. I've mostly read and listened to commentary about the debate. And I will say that I think that it's hard to even say what the best part of the debate was, back to me not answering your questions.
Another one.
It's hard to say what the best part of the debate was, because it's like, what would have been good, like what was the measure, right? Like, I don't know. I don't think that there's no one at the debate stage I was like really cheering for. I wasn't really rooting for anybody that was in the debate. I didn't want anybody to win. I didn't care who won or lost the debate. I do think that Joe Biden had more at stake at the debate than Donald Trump did. Mm-hmm. And I think that given that the stakes were higher for Biden than Trump, Biden not doing well, which is what the vast majority of people, including apparently the Biden campaign, believe was the case. I think the fact that he didn't do well is not great. That's a loss, an L, a major L, a dub,
Definitely,
as the kids say.
Yeah, definitely a major L. Yet another iteration of Angela not answering the agenda question or first question to kick off the show.
But it's kind of like a theme,
It's cool. It's cool. It's a part of the show. But I will say this was the first trick question, if there was ever a trick question. But in all honesty, I don't think it was a trick question. I do think there's good and bad in everything. In my opinion, the best part was the fact that both camps got to see and experience the harsh realities of their candidate. It's also hard to, answer that question and answer that question as like a Republican, if you will, because if you haven't already, realized, I definitely lean progressive, lean unapologetically black as fuck. And sometimes that means leaning, Democratic. Other times that's leaning harsh critic of the Democrats. So it is hard to be like, oh, what was the best part from the, Republican side? because I'm just like I don't know what it looks like to
What was winning,
I don't know what it looks like to confidently storm the Capitol on January 6th. So it's hard to actually like embody that team and be
Right.
like, oh, what does winning look like? What does losing look like?
What does winning look like to the team that unapologetically storms the Capitol to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power?
I literally have no idea, right? So, I you know, but from the, you know, progressive Democratic end, if you will, it's like, damn, everybody is realizing the thing that I know a lot of unapologetically black thinkers have been saying for quite some time, which is that Biden is unfit to be president. I think that's the nicest way that I could put it. I will say from my own perspective as Kevin Banat, my own perspective here is that, you know, I was always of the mind that Biden is old. And I say that not as a critic, but as someone who is concerned for someone else's well-being. I say that as somebody who's like, it's not easy to, you know, be the face of the Democratic Party. It's not easy to be the face of anything. It takes a lot of energy. And to do that for the entire country of the United States of America, you know, for as long as he's been doing under so many different, you know, titles.
Right.
It's like, bro, like how could you actually send him off and sign this off and not be like, are we killing this man?
It's definitely a question of like care and compassion and like a conversation about wellness.
Yeah.
Like I think that, you know,
I'm less critiquing him as
like
like
yes.
can you do this job? I'm sure he could, but it's like also like, yo, you're literally not the same person from a year ago, let alone 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Decades ago, right?
Right.
Because Joe Biden has been
Old as
in
fuck
office
since the 90s.
But he's been in office since the 70s. I'm pretty sure he was first elected in 1978. That number is like flashing in my brain, so I'm pretty sure that's the
Word.
right one. But like, it, you know, I also think that I want to get back to the debate in a second, but I think it's also worth naming, since we're talking about the length of Joe Biden's career, like somebody who one could argue, I may not argue this, but one could argue that someone that was good at making public policy in the 80s, for the 90s, for the 2000s is not good at making policy
Facts.
for 2024. Like that, if you're the person that's like makes the right decisions for a country, an economy, a society that existed in the 80s, before the internet, before social media, before several financial crises, like before the war in Iraq, before 9/11, like you're probably not the best person to be making policy and leading the country for this moment in time right now. Like I think that when we're talking about like the gerontocracy, which is basically like a society that is run by people that are very much in the later half of their life, like it's less about, oh, you're too old to do this, and more like, what is your frame of reference about what is happening in the world, and therefore what is best to happen, what should be happening, what should be moving in the world.
And here's the thing with that idea, it's like in other areas of the world that's very understood. So like in sports, it's like, hey fam, your time is coming up. You can
the league is different. The game is different.
The game is the speed is different. We're running different plays. We're thinking different. Your time is coming up. So maybe you should start thinking about the next generation class of folks you could be mentoring, you could be, you know, showing the ropes or whatever type of way.
In music too.
In music,
They're like, oh, like, you know, it's one thing to have a career that's like longevity, but the role in your career transitions, you shift. You're not always the front facing, you're not always the top of the chart. That's not the expectation.
And I feel like that's my frustration coming out of this debate, is that I'm noticing that the Democratic Party, the Biden camp, has been very trash in thinking about what does the future of this camp look like?
Yeah.
What does the future of the Democrats look like? And even Biden, like, I feel like it's a leadership quality we should all be looking for, where someone can be like, I need to think ahead for not only myself, not only this camp, but the rest of the country, and think about who are the next leaders that I could be grooming to actually do this, to actually take over, as opposed to like, you know what, I'm just going to sit here until I'm literally like freezing up, having Mitch McConnell like moments.
Mitch McConnell moments.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. We're on a path to finishing the NDA this week. It's been good bipartisan cooperation and a string of
like it's wild.
I do want to like back to the debate for a second. One of the things that I personally was very surprised by is just how unanimous and loud the call was. Like, oh, Joe Biden did terrible. He needs to step down. He's like
honest.
Like
how honest everyone was.
Honest, but like, but have we all like, we've all not been seeing the same scenes for the last 6 months to a
real.
year? Like, I was, and also on some like strategy to win. These calls, this conversation, like so many people, you know, all of the pundits on MSNBC and CNN, they're like, I was texting with Democratic operatives during the debate, and everyone's like, this is a disaster. He needs to be replaced. Friends, that is a conversation that needed to happen months ago. These are February text messages you needed to be sending.
Legit.
Like,
I mean,
what are we like? The idea that now all of a sudden in July, damn near August, like, yes, it's still like this is the first debate, but you all needed to have this freak out months ago. Months ago. And now it was just, I found it kind of jarring and surprising. I was just surprised. Not that it's the wrong thing to say necessarily, but I'm just like,
oh, y'all are really saying.
You're saying the thing now, but if you're trying to win, this is not the time to have said that. This is not the time to say those things at all, actually.
Yeah, it is weird. And I think maybe, I don't know, and this is me assuming and just using, you know, the experience I've had of being on like campaigns or at organizations. I'm like, maybe you all were so like wrapped around this one goal, this one idea so much that like you were just blinded by it. And when it came time to the moment to actually perform and do the thing, now it's just this big blow up. But like at the same time, I'm like, it can't be that, because like you like there's just an awareness of like just the truth that's just like, all right, either you all haven't been saying the thing out loud, you know, you all haven't been saying the elephant in the room, or you have and maybe nobody has been listening, or the right people haven't been listening. I don't know. It just seems like a complete disaster. And I am appreciative of the media actually saying what it was and what it is, which is like, this shit is terrible, and this shit is like, oh my God, like what the fuck is happening? But at the same time, I'm also like, what the fuck? Like, where's the vision and the planning?
Where is the vision? Where is the strategy? The Biden campaign is sending out emails that's like, maybe some of you are hearing that the debate on Thursday was a disaster. Well, let me tell you, I'm like, what? Like, wait. That was the message.
Yeah.
That's the narrative strategist in me is like exploding. That's so reactive. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't act like the water is wet, but y'all should have been noticing the water was wet months ago. Like, why? It's just so weird to me that all of a sudden, even the Biden campaign is like, yeah, I'm old as fuck, but hey, it could be worse, or I'm not doing as bad as you think.
The
like,
rapid response, the rapid response to the
where's the PR team, for God's sake?
It's funny though, because it's like, you could clearly tell that
our PR team was like, all right. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna lean into it.
Let's just admit it's a shit show. It's
my God.
It's like the dog with the coffee in the burning house, and he's like, everything is fine. It's like they cross that out and they're like, okay, let's just write that. Okay, shit is burning.
Everything's burning.
But there's still a plan.
We still want you to stay inside the house.
We still want you to
drink your coffee. But yes,
there's
you're right.
There's gonna be a plan.
You're right.
You might
Everything
get
is
a
on
burner
fire.
too.
Like,
Joe Biden definitely popped out. Like, I'm a little old, but
hey,
we all have a bad day.
We all have a like. Whoa, guys, that was not. I feel like we needed to be at the drawing board for like another 30 minutes before we put out the talking point.
But here's this other thing. I feel like there's this other moment where there's like questioning and like, oh my God, what do we do? What's happening? Where it's almost like I'm watching the system, aka the Democratic Party, be like, whoa, that was wild. What do we do? Mm-hmm. And it's almost like you're asking this question as if there's a response or an answer that we can give here and actually push through, versus the process and system that you all have told us is the way that this goes.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, oh, is this kind of like that moment where COVID happens and like everything we said we can't do, we can now do, and make all these like strong edits to systems. So like,
That's a good point.
I'm like, is this a moment where we could, go to customer service without a receipt and return Joe Biden? Like, is this a moment where we can say, hey, it's been after 14 days. I get it.
I know.
I don't have my receipt. I get it. You can look at my bank statement though.
I have the card.
I mean,
I do have the card. That's like Target will basically take anything back.
It's like,
is this a Target moment?
Can you all give me store credit? Can I get full? Like, it feels like that's
partial
a moment.
Credit, give me 50% back.
So if that's like, it feels like that's a moment that we're in, and I'm just like, is that a real thing where there's wiggle room to like shift?
I think. Well, okay. I think that
like trade Joe Biden in for like AOC or somebody.
That would be really, really interesting. And
you know what? I'm sorry. This is one of those just like JJ Redick miraculously became
ascended to the top,
fucking the coach of the Lakers.
Fair.
Because somebody dropped a seed of a narrative.
You're doing it.
The N-Word podcast is here to say, we're returning Joe Biden. Who are we trading Joe Biden in for?
See, this is the challenge, right? Because
I'm gonna just say fuck it and throw AOC in.
I would throw AOC out there. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Here's what I will say. Mm-hmm. I think that this idea that like this could be like a COVID-like moment where it's like, you thought that you couldn't work from home, but yes, you can.
Right.
You thought that we couldn't just cut you a check, but yes, we can.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like this could be that moment for the Democratic Party. It will not be.
Terrible.
For reasons that I will say, but it could be. It will not be because the same reason why they decide, many state parties and the Democratic National Committee, the DNC, made it so that there was not actually a primary process, right? Like, because they are so committed to the status quo. Anything that could potentially move us outside of what is, quote, normal, the standard that white supremacy, that upholds white supremacy, right? Anything that could move us away from that is completely off the table until it's not, right? So I think that, like, you know, a lot of people say that the reason that we're in this position is because Joe Biden is too stubborn to step down, which that could be like 60% of the reason. But there's another whole 40% of the reason that's like the hundreds of people that have decision-making power around Joe Biden that are saying, no, we're right. He's not going to step down, and we're not going to set up a system or a process to allow the voters to have a say. We would rather hold on to the minimal amount of power that we think we have, right? We would rather hold on to the small amount of power that we think we have in our little state committees, because just a little, like, political science education for everybody. Every state has a party, a political, a party infrastructure organization that is designed that runs the elections in that state, that for that party that is in charge of fundraising, that's in charge of the process for selecting who's going to be at the top of the ballot, aka primary, or on the ballot, aka the primary process. Like, every state has its organization. Some cities, they have their own organizations as well, and they all get to make a decision about whether or not they're going to hold a primary. So here in Florida, where we live, the Florida State Democratic Party decided that they were just going to, at their convention, they were just going to anoint Joe Biden as the nominee and not give us, the voters in the state, a chance to say whether or not we wanted him to be the nominee. Now, it is likely that Joe Biden has won the primary in all of the states, and there have been, in all of the states that had primaries, he's won them. But there are lots of places, like in Florida, that didn't even get that chance. And the DNC also made it so that there wasn't anybody else on the ballot for real, on the Democratic side for folks to choose from. So I just feel like this moment where we're all in, where everybody's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. There were choices that were made way before June, way before May, that made it so that we got here. And I think that it's important for all of us, especially as we're thinking about the future, right? If we don't ever want this to happen again, more people that have strategic brains that are thinking about beyond the next 2 years, the next 4 years, we have to step up and take over these party organizations. It is possible. We did it in DC with the homie Greg Sandana, my homie Martin Garcia, Vincent Villano. We ran a campaign to to start to infiltrate the Democratic Party in the District of Columbia when we were living there. And we were able to do it kind of easily, to be honest with you, because the process to run these organizations, to elect the people that run these organizations, is not very few people participate in it.
It just feels like a lot of the people that are currently holding these positions are either struggling to push this agenda where we're actually looking towards the future, aka a Biden-less future.
Yeah.
And that future being this current moment. Like, people in those positions are just either struggling as fuck, or they just don't got it like that. And
I think it's that they're complacent and they are.
It's the ego. It's the ego tripping, power tripping folks that are like, well, fuck it, I could go, have brunch in DC, so I'm good.
And there's this idea that, at least this was my experience, and I've tried to be in multiple state Democratic Party infrastructures. There's this mindset that's like, you just wait your turn in line.
Nah.
And then at some point you'll get to be the one in power.
Nah.
And so when there's a moment that comes up that's like, we need to shake up the line, kick everybody out, move it up. They're like, oh, but I'm only 2 people back.
Nah, brother.
Why would we let's not get rid of the line. I'm almost in front. But like, that line is only gonna keeping the powers that be, and first of all, you're never actually gonna get to the front of the line. So let's just be clear about that.
You
aren't gonna get to nobody's moving out of line. As we can see, Joe
Facts.
Biden and them are not stepping out of line.
Facts. So just
just
get
cut
it.
the line.
Get it how you live.
Yeah.
And as a free black man, and unapologetically speaking and living as black man, it's why I look at the JJ Redicks and I'm like, bet. Cause when I do that shit, I'm gonna be like, of course I knew this shit was possible. I seen this motherfucking do this shit right then and there.
Yeah.
Like, fuck waiting in line. I'm just gonna ball and hoop and get it how you live. And I feel like
just take the risk. Be like, actually, I belong here. I get to be the head coach because my homie said he wants me to be the head coach.
Right.
You don't like any of these other people being the head coach, so I'm about to be the head coach.
Who stands
what about
up
it?
in the middle of the meeting and is just like, yo,
I got
Biden,
this.
get the fuck out of here, bro. Like,
please.
Like, respectfully, like, chill, live with your fam, enjoy the rest of your life, and like, just endorse us, bro.
You know, I also think that there's this reality that, you know, in our first episode, when I was kind of breaking down some of the elements of white supremacy culture, that one of them is this or that thinking, and like, I also feel like it shows up as like a lack of imagination, or like a lack of like just realizing that another world is possible. And that to me is so at play in this dynamic, in this conversation of like, should Joe Biden be the nominee? It's like, you know, I was reading a article in the New Yorker that was interviewing Ezra Klein, this podcast and journalist of the New York Times. And he put out a article or an episode of his show like months ago that was like, the Democrats have other options besides Biden. They need to be looking at them. And, you know, many people were like, dragged him for it. But in this interview that I was reading, talking about, you know, it was right after the debate, talking about his article and now what many people are saying, it was there was this he was talking about, you know, sort of this feeling that people were not saying that Joe Biden was the best option, but that the Democrats didn't have any other options. And it's just like, that doesn't make any sense. And if that's the case, then like, you all did all of this wrong. If it is true that you have an entire party infrastructure, thousands of people up and down the ticket, all of these roads, if you all are so powerful that we as the American people should continue to trust you to run this country, but you only have one option, this 82-year-old man to run that's clearly on a decline. Like, even if he's not declined, it's clear that he's not at the peak, not at his best, not even where he was when he ran and won in 2020. So like, I just think that this like, oh, there's no other option. It's either Biden or nothing. It's like, that is exactly the type of adherence to like white supremacy culture and dominance that fucks us up on so many levels. Of course there's another option. There's always another option if you are willing to take the risk, if you are willing to see yourself outside of just the black and white, this or that type of context, and speak up.
Yeah. And I think that's the mind fuck of it all. It's like, well, obviously, the Chiefs are not the only potential option as far as who can be the NFL champions. And also, it's like, how do you have a mind frame that allows you to be the Lions and say,
Yeah.
all is not lost because we just took this L in the
Yeah.
playoff game.
Yeah.
We're actually building for the future here.
Yeah.
And this is a moment where, you know, obviously losing sucks, but like this is a moment where we can absorb some solid data to help project us past our goals, past what's possible. And I feel like time and time again, this election is showing, past elections have been showing that like the Democratic Party just has no vision or no bravery to
Yeah.
fight for doing something different in a way where it's like, let's cut the ego tripping, let's cut the power hoarding and grabbing, and let's build something so that we can all sit back old as fuck and be like, look at what we built. This shit actually works. Versus like, let's roll this, you know.
No, because the thing is that, and you're right about the ego tripping and the power tripping. Democrats are not good at that. They're not
It's
good
so
at. They're not good at power hoarding, actually, because there's and I hear this a lot, and like people were saying, and I think rightfully people are saying that, you know, it's unfair how much, you know, crap Joe Biden is getting for his debate performance, because nobody's talking about how many times Trump lied, how rambly and terrible he looked. But the difference is that, and this is true about the Democrats and their inability to power hoard, or their inability to actually, you know, enforce their will, is because there's a different standard, right? Like, I was thinking about it, it's like, oh, well, Joe Biden's getting all this shit for not performing well, but neither did Donald Trump. You're comparing, it's like saying that your 6-year-old didn't behave, like, it's like saying your toddler didn't behave on the same level as your 6-year-old. It's like, nobody expects the toddler to behave at the same level as the 6-year-old. So when the 6-year-old shows up, has a tantrum, is acting an asshole, you're like, yo, what is wrong with your 6-year-old? Nobody's saying that about the toddler. In this context, ladies and gentlemen, and theys and everybody else, Donald Trump is the toddler.
Yeah.
He's been the toddler for the last 8 years of our political life, beyond more than 10 years. He's acted this same way, been lowered the bar beyond hell, and acted in a way that nobody expects him to do anything but be a liar, be a crook, be a con artist, be a racist, misogynist. Nobody expects anything but that. So when people are complaining like, oh, Biden is being compared on a different standard than Trump, well, of course he is.
Yeah.
We expected him to be a different person. We expect Democrats to behave on a different, higher standard, because that's the morality that they claim, and that's the morality that the majority of their base of voters expect them to behave at. The morality of the Republican base voters, they don't expect their candidates to behave at the same level as Democratic voters expect their candidates to behave. And so you're right. You're not being judged on the same level. Sorry, like, that's who you say you are. You say that you're good. You say that you're not racist. You say that you're strong leaders. You say that you adhere and value democracy. Well, then we expect you to act that way. That is not what that's not what Trump says that he is. That's not the Republicans say they are. So nobody expects them to act that way. And so you don't get to just say, like, I want to be judged at the same level as this guy. You never showed up. You never said you were the same level as this guy. He's a toddler. You're a 6-year-old. You have to act like we expect 6-year-olds to act, not like we expect toddlers to act. We're not going to judge you on that same level.
And it brings us to this point of like, how do we move forward? Because Biden, I mean, again, to your point, Trump is Trump. You know,
A liar, a misogynist, a racist, a con man.
We don't even know if he's going to even be available, because
he may be in prison.
He may legitimately be in prison. So, like, again, which is very much on brand for Trump. It's
exactly.
like, oh yeah, Trump potentially in prison or potentially a president. Sounds about right. So like for me, it's just like, all right, what's possible right now? Because again, it feels like this COVID moment where shit has hit the fan and now we need new systems to capture this moment. And I'm like, is this a moment, you know, where we're doing away with Biden, or are we just continuing with the show, and that show being the like the anything but Trump show?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'll say this. I don't think that this is the Democrat or the DNC's COVID moment. I think that, like I said earlier, it's a little to me absurd how much everyone is freaking out, as if we all haven't been watching the same thing for the last however many months. Like, where have you all been? But I do think that, and I personally, I'm really interested and intrigued by folks that are like, well, what about this person? Or what about a brokered convention, which is basically where they throw out the results of the primary and make a decision at the convention, which is happening in August, end of August, I think, in Chicago. The Democratic Convention is happening at the end of August in Chicago. So they could, you know, some people are saying, let's just make the decision at the convention, or Biden can step down and then Harris would step up. I'm interested in that from a like process, and like that would be a really interesting, you know, political exercise moment. I don't think it's practical. I think it's possible. So now, yeah, I think it's totally possible. I don't think it's practical because I don't trust the people in charge at the DNC or in any of these state parties to be savvy enough and nimble enough and like creative enough to like, because this is a pull the fire, like break the glass, pull the fire alarm moment.
Get everybody organized in a rapid,
exactly, and get everybody organized,
which is very
to
hard.
Move in a particular, it is very hard to get even like 100 people organized and rapidly responding in a way. Let alone millions of people. Let alone millions of people, and it won't actually be millions of people, but it will be like tens of thousands of people that they'd have to like get into, and by that I mean the people that are in the that would need to be moved and shifted in order to like vote at the convention to do something differently.
And I'm thinking about the millions of people impacted.
Yes.
Who would also have to follow this newness.
Yeah.
And like just as like a regular ass black man having worked many different jobs and seeing new systems and newness come into place and watching that reaction.
How long it takes people to adapt to it.
People are just like, huh? Yeah. I hate this. I hate this. So like I can imagine to do something new in this moment would be so aggressive, and would be, the response would be like very what the fuck. I don't know.
Which is why we should have had this conversation months ago.
Terrible.
But it you know, it could be a galvanizer. It could be like there is potentially a subset of the voting population that's like, well, damn, they did do something different. That's interesting. That's cute. Maybe I'm excited. Maybe I'm energized to turn out and vote. But I don't think it's
to that point though, which could then be used as an organizing tool.
Totally.
To galvanize.
Like, we heard you. We see you. You're right.
Right.
We need to turn around and do this thing.
It's like getting the email. It's like getting the email after the debate and being like, that was a shit show and you want to restart, right?
Yeah, but they didn't say that. They said that was a shit show, but it's fine because
just
everything
donate
else,
here.
No,
and everything will be fine.
It's a shit show, but everything's fine because everybody else would be a shit show too. So just stay on our shit show because everything else would be just as bad, if not worse, which is a crazy case to make for an election.
So bad.
But I do think that what is possible is to change the story.
Yeah.
And I do feel like there's an opportunity to do a hybrid of what we're saying, which is like, we hear you, we see you, you're not wrong, here's how we can do this together. Because I do think that there's something that's so, like before the debate, I was really irritated by the way that folks were acting like Biden's age was not a thing.
Oh, bro, yes.
Like that shit was driving me nuts.
It was driving me nuts as well, which is why when I realized there was a debate happening, I wanted to tune in and watch, mainly because I was like, if one of these fools passes out, if one of these fools has a Mitch McConnell freeze up moment, I need to witness this.
So that the next day it's not like that didn't happen.
I mean, I like literally, and we were talking with folks about this, and it's like literally like genuine concern for this human who struggled to watch a Pride entertainment situation.
It was a Juneteenth thing.
A Juneteenth celebration.
A celebration. Which
I mean, you're struggling to watch a Juneteenth celebration because your age is truly catching up with you.
Which it makes sense.
And to be clear, this is not like I'm not making fun. I'm speaking facts. Like, if you're dehydrated, you're dehydrated. Drink water.
Yeah.
Biden is getting old as fuck to the point where he has episodes literally on camera where it's like,
where is he?
Is he okay? So like, I literally tuned into the debate on some like, I'm genuinely concerned, and I feel like if there's gonna be a moment where something happens, it's gonna happen during this 90-minute ass debate.
It's such a long time.
90 minutes, bro.
Oh my gosh.
If you tell me to give a fucking 10-minute speech, I'm like, Jesus.
How did we expect any like to stand up on the stage for not like that's cruel. That doesn't even make any sense, y'all.
And to something we were talking about, or we mentioned on our last episode, which may or may not be a ghost episode.
We'll see.
You know, we get it. There's a lot happening in this election. And, you know, if you are not clear by now, we're certainly not MAGA supporters. We're certainly not
very much anti.
Very much aggressively anti-Republicans, very much aggressively anti-Trump, and have often supported the Democratic Party in many of ways. But we are very, you know, we're truth speakers, truth tellers, unapologetically black speakers. So we're looking at this election and we're calling a spade a spade. So we get how there are many folks on our side that actually don't know what to do in this moment, or they do know what to do and they kind of feel shitty about it.
Terrible about it, yeah.
So we get it on both ends. But for me, there's this, there's just a swallowing the realities of this moment, walking through the fire of this moment. There's just like okay, one, if we were to lay down a plan right now, given what we know, what do you think that plan looks like? And like, you know, is it like a 4-year plan? Is it 5-year, 8-year plan? You know, what does it look like? Because I feel like prior to the debate, I was of the mind of like, okay, this election's a shit show. I may or may not participate. If I participate, obviously it's anything but Trump. And
you said anybody but Trump, right?
Anything, anything. I will vote a fucking German Shepherd into this shit.
Y'all got a cute golden retriever.
I will vote a pit bull in this motherfucker.
Yeah, for real, 100%.
Literally will vote an iguana.
There are a lot of those.
A lot of them. So anything but Trump. So like, again, prior to this debate, I was very much like, may or may not participate, anything but Trump. get this motherfucker in and protect certain infrastructures and parameters of our democracy. One thing that was very important to me, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, again, may or may not be a ghost episode, but like, you know, protecting the Supreme Court justices situation and not allowing someone like Trump to be able to appoint more people into that space, a space where once you walk in, you are there for the rest of your life.
Which is nuts.
A space where folks have walked in on behalf of Trump, and because of that, we lost Roe versus Wade.
Yep.
So, again, if there's a plan, what do you? And I don't mean to put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
The Angela Peoples.
You know.
But like, what does that plan look like? You know, what's the timeline on it? What is it? Yeah.
Well,
what's it giving?
What is it giving?
Help us, Angela.
I would say, you know, nobody asked me. I want to just say a couple of people that work at the DNC do have my phone number, but nobody is called. But if they were going to call, here's what I might say.
Greetings. Is this the Angela Peoples, unapologetically black?
I would say, one, like, again, we need to change the story. Nobody is, I think it's actually progress that more Democratic officials are saying, yikes, Biden's age is a problem. That's actually a step forward. People don't want to be lied to. Stop trying to gaslight us into voting for you. Like, that's ridiculous. We all see what's happening, just like we see the genocide happening in Gaza, just like we see the housing crisis out of control. We're not stupid. So acting like, you know, all of this is something that we don't need to be paying attention to, acting like the emperor has clothes on, is not going to work. Please stop doing that. I think that there is a story to tell that was a story that many people in the movement were telling in 2020, which is that we are stronger than Trumpism. And it is not about Biden being stronger than Trumpism. It's about us being stronger, being better, being more, being bigger than Trumpism. And that's a story that has a lot of evidence. There's a lot of receipts to that. We were stronger than Trumpism in 2018 when people like AOC and Ayanna Pressley were elected, and there was this momentum, this energy, right? We were stronger than Trump in 2020 when millions of us came out after the uprisings, when George Floyd was murdered, to say, actually, this is not who we want to be as a country. We were stronger than Trumpism in 2022. So it's not as if there aren't receipts for this narrative. But the narrative can no longer be Biden is the best option for us. Nobody, that does not, and that doesn't mean that Biden has to be off the ticket. Because like I said earlier, I don't think that shit's practical, because I don't trust the number of people that it would take to create a system and a process to get Biden off the ballot and get someone on the ballot. I don't know. I don't know that that's what folks should be spending their energy, their time, their resources on. What we actually need is to get people out to the polls to vote against Biden, or vote against Trump. And we need to get people out to vote for these Democratic candidates down the ballot. We need to get people out to vote to protect the Supreme Court from doing more of what it's already done. The day after that debate, that was a catastrophe, the Supreme Court put down a ruling that basically paved the way for Project 2025, which is what Trump is trying to put in. They basically said that the way that we all learned about checks and balances in middle school and in high school was Congress passes a law, the executive branch interprets the law and like puts it into place, and then the judicial branch determines like what is and isn't constitutional based on, you know, what is and isn't allowed under the laws based on the Constitution, right? The Supreme Court just said that whole part about the executive branch interpreting the laws and putting them into place doesn't matter. It doesn't count anymore. They don't have that same authority, right? This is the ruling. If people are hearing about it, it's a ruling on that did away with Chevron, which has been a standard in the Supreme Court since the 80s. And all that to say is, and we'll put some resources in the episode to help people understand what we're talking about with Chevron. But all that to say, the Supreme Court is really the thing that we should be putting at the top of the ticket. And so whatever Democrats need to do, get Kamala out, get, what's his name, Newsom, get, Elizabeth Warren, get AOC, get these people out talking more and more about the Supreme Court is what is at the top of the ticket. Supreme Court took away Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court is threatening to take away same-sex marriage. They are taking away our ability to execute the laws and be an effective governing society. That is what is at the top of the ticket. And if that means that you have to check Biden, because that's what the process is, then check Biden. Just do it, right? Because otherwise, we will not have these we will be in a much, much worse place. And I think that that's the story to tell. Like, don't tell us that Biden is the best leader for the party. He's not. Don't tell us that Trump and Biden are the same age and so we shouldn't be. No, that's not. Get that shit out of your mouth. What is at stake is a Supreme Court. Period. The end. And I think that if you can start to make that the narrative instead of, oh, Biden is old, but everybody else is old, or Biden might be a bad choice, but everybody else is a bad choice. Like, what are we talking about here, y'all?
So you're more so like, give the people a narrative that feels good and makes sense for this current moment, because the shit that y'all are giving is gaslighting us and pissing us off.
Yes.
So your strategy is more so like, it's to solve for and to fix this current moment.
Right. I mean, that is my suggestion for this current moment.
Yeah.
If there's a longer term strategy, it is definitely doing the work to not even necessarily, I think the long-term strategy is doing the work to build up third-party options, like the Working Families Party is a great option that has been building power and getting candidates on the ballot and winning in places all across the country for years now. Shout out to Mo Mitchell. Shout out to Nalini Stamp, the folks that are leading the Working Families Party. Like, that is definitely a very, very viable, very, very long-term option. Because what happens when you get a Working Families Party in your city, in your state, they can put pressure on the Democratic establishment that is saying we can only have this boring ass white man at the top of the ticket, or we can only have, there's only room for one black person on the ballot and one woman on the ballot. Like, if you get a Working Families Party that can put people, that can challenge that status quo, then it starts to shake things up some. It starts to move people to say, okay, well, we'll make some concessions here, or we'll bring it. And then also it gives people something to hope for and hope into. I think there is also another option of joining a political home. That is, and by political home, we mean an organization like the Dream Defenders that are in Florida, but are also nationally, where you can get educated. They're working on building support and healing spaces for people in their communities. And also they sometimes endorse candidates and sometimes are fighting for different policies. Get into an organization and build those up, because those are also places where you can put pressure on the status quo. You don't even necessarily need to be into your local party infrastructure to start to put pressure on the party and start to push on making shifts in that long-term way.
Yeah, I agree. I think this current moment is definitely, making it more clear why joining a political home is very resourceful for folks that are, watching and experiencing this current political moment. I actually, thinking about your pops, literally texting us like, damn, what are we going to do after the debate? I can imagine there's millions of Americans and, folks of other nationalities.
Right. Definitely people around the world are like, what the fuck, y'all?
What the fuck is about to happen next? What do we do? And, that's where having a political home, can be very helpful. And not to say that, like, you, as a random citizen of America, could not come up with a plan that you can now organize around your community with. But definitely want to big up these organizations that are doing the work and that are, currently coming up or, currently hitting send on their plans or their responses for this current moment. Yeah, this moment is definitely just, I think, putting us all, again, part of why I was saying that, the good thing that came out of this debate is the reality that both parties, well, for the most part, I'll just speak for the Democrats, that the Democrats are now having to deal with a reality that a lot of people have been speaking and voicing and screaming out loud for quite some time now. But it just seems like this post-debate moment is like a real wake-up call for folks in a way that's like, yeah, you should actually acknowledge and be aware. Be acknowledged, be terrified, be aware that this current moment needs you to have both hands on the wheel and look at the fucking road.
Yeah. I mean, and there will be, I think there's more to say. I think also to your point, I appreciate that maybe the hope I have is maybe we can have an honest conversation now about what's in front of us and what's at stake so that more of us can opt into a proactive situation, right? Just saying Joe Biden is the best, don't worry about it, don't freak out.
I hate that shit.
Yeah, it's wild. People and people are smarter than that. And it's easier if you give people the truth. Yeah. And you sell it in a way that is the way that they keep selling these fundraising emails and selling us all this shit. People will hear you. People will receive it if you're real with them, especially the people that you need to get off their their butts and show up to the polls. Yeah,
people can hold complexity
definitely
in a very, real and deep way. And oftentimes these organizations, the Democratic Party, white supremacy, doesn't give folks that credit. So they feel like they need to, protect or shelter folks away from such truths. But, keep it 100 and don't, like you said, I almost got triggered just now just thinking about it because, there has been folks that are kind of just look away, just vote for Joe. And it's very
nah.
That level of gaslighting, it's, I don't know, it makes me want to fight more than it makes me want to come in and be organized or be helpful, if you will.
It's certainly not a good standard to set for the long term either. Right. Just close your eyes and vote is not the type of energy we want for
in fact
people.
If you were to tell me, yo, Joe was trash as fuck, we actually made a mistake by even trying to run this fool, I'd be like, y'all niggas got my support. Who do you want me to vote for? Bet. I got you. Just tell me the truth versus gaslighting me and making me think that what I just witnessed was not what I just witnessed. Which is, again, why I appreciated the media's response to this moment where it's oh, wow, y'all are actually telling me the disaster I saw was, in fact, a disaster.
We all see the sky is blue, the water is wet.
Word.
This has been an episode of the N-Word podcast, powered by the South. And the good news is the conversation is not over.
Word.
We will have more time to process, to talk through what we see, what's at stake, and how we all are moving. We want to hear how y'all are moving. And please share, subscribe, give us your feedback. We love doing this show. We love the feedback and the thoughts that y'all share with us. So please keep it coming. And we'll be back soon.
Peace, y'all.